Princess Zara stood at the massive window of her father's palace, watching the twin suns set over the crystal spires of the Vorthak Empire's capital. Her blue-scaled skin caught the dying light, making the intricate patterns along her arms shimmer like liquid starlight. At 25 cycles old, she was considered past prime breeding age for her species, and the constant reminder of her failure weighed heavily on her heart. The Vorthak were a proud warrior race that had conquered 17 star systems through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Their society valued strength, honor, and above all, the ability to produce strong offspring to continue their bloodlines. For royalty, this expectation was even more crushing. Zara had undergone every medical procedure, consulted every healer, and submitted to countless examinations. The verdict was always the same. Her reproductive organs were malformed, making natural conception impossible. Emperor Vorthak the Terrible, her father, paced behind her in his war room. His massive frame cast long shadows across the holographic star maps that displayed their empire's territories. Red zones marked recent human settlements that had begun appearing in contested space. These humans were a young species, barely 300 cycles into space travel, yet they had somehow managed to establish colonies in regions the Vorthak considered strategically important. "Daughter," the Emperor's voice rumbled like distant thunder, "the human delegation has arrived. They seek to negotiate a peace treaty." His four eyes, arranged in pairs on either side of his elongated skull, studied her reflection in the window. "They offer something unusual as part of their proposal." Zara turned, her elegant neck craning to look up at her father's imposing figure. Where she was considered small and delicate by Vorthak standards, he embodied everything their people admired: towering height, heavily muscled frame, and scars from countless battles etched across his scaled hide. What could these primitive beings possibly offer us that we cannot take by force? The Emperor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "They offer you a husband." The words hit Zara like a plasma bolt to the chest. She had long accepted that no Vorthak noble would take her as a mate, given her inability to bear children. Political marriages were about securing bloodlines and strengthening alliances. What use was a barren princess? "Father, surely you jest. No human could possibly." "The human ambassador assures me their species has different capabilities," the Emperor interrupted. "They claim their medicine is advanced in ways ours is not. Something about genetic compatibility and adaptive biology." He waved a clawed hand dismissively. "I care nothing for their scientific babble. What matters is that this arrangement could secure peace while ridding me of a diplomatic burden." Zara's heart sank. She had always known this day would come, when her father would find some way to dispose of her politically. The humans probably saw this as an opportunity to gain favor with the Empire, offering to take their defective princess as a gesture of goodwill. It was humiliating, but perhaps it was better than remaining a constant reminder of royal failure. "Very well, Father. If this serves the Empire, I will accept whatever arrangement you deem necessary." The next morning, Zara found herself in the grand throne room, dressed in her finest ceremonial robes. The human delegation was smaller than she had expected, only 5 individuals compared to the usual hundreds that attended diplomatic functions. They wore simple dark suits that seemed almost primitive next to the elaborate armor and energy shields of the Vorthak court. The human ambassador stepped forward. He was tall for his species, though still shorter than any adult Vorthak, with graying hair and intelligent brown eyes. When he spoke, his words were translated through a universal communicator. But Zara noticed he had taken the time to learn basic Vorthak honorifics. "Your Imperial Majesty," he began, bowing in the human fashion, "I present Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Colonial Navy, who has volunteered to serve as consort to your daughter, in the interest of peace between our peoples." Zara's attention shifted to the man who stepped forward. He was younger than the ambassador, perhaps 30 human years, with short black hair and steady gray eyes. Unlike the others, he wore a military uniform with simple insignia. There was something about his bearing that reminded her of Vorthak warriors, a quiet confidence that spoke of experience in dangerous situations. What surprised her most was that he looked directly at her, not at the floor or walls as most beings did when confronted with royalty. There was no fear in his expression, no disgust at her alien appearance, just calm assessment. When their eyes met, he offered a slight nod of acknowledgement, as one would to an equal rather than a burden to be accepted. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. "Human, do you understand what you are agreeing to? The princess is flawed, unable to produce offspring. This union would be purely political." Captain Chen's expression didn't change. "With respect, Your Majesty, human medical science may view the situation differently. We've had success with cases that other species considered hopeless. If the princess consents, I would be honored to try." Zara felt something stir in her chest that she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. It was dangerous to feel such things, but something in the human's tone suggested he wasn't simply being diplomatic. He spoke as if he actually believed what he was saying. The negotiations continued for hours, with details about territories, trade routes, and military agreements. Zara found herself studying the human delegation, particularly Captain Chen. He contributed little to the political discussions but listened intently, occasionally making notes on a small device. When cultural differences arose that threatened to derail talks, he often suggested compromises that showed remarkable understanding of both species' perspectives. As the day progressed, Zara realized this arrangement might be more than just political convenience. The human seemed genuinely interested in peaceful coexistence rather than simply avoiding conquest. And Captain Chen, there was something about him that suggested depths she hadn't expected from a supposedly primitive species. When the formal ceremonies concluded and the initial agreements were signed, Zara found herself walking through the palace gardens with her new betrothed. The universal translator made conversation possible, but she was surprised when he attempted to speak in her native tongue, albeit with a heavy accent. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "I want you to know that regardless of politics, I will treat you with respect and honor. Whatever the future holds, you will not be a burden to me." For the first time in years, Princess Zara smiled genuinely. Perhaps this strange human might be exactly what she needed. 3 months had passed since the wedding ceremony, and Zara found herself in the strangest situation of her life. Marcus had been given quarters in the palace's east wing, traditionally reserved for visiting dignitaries, while she remained in her childhood rooms. The arrangement was meant to be temporary, but both had been too polite to address the obvious question of when they might actually begin living as husband and wife. Their daily interactions had developed into something unexpected, genuine friendship. Marcus spent his mornings training with the palace guards, demonstrating human combat techniques that fascinated the Vorthak warriors. His afternoons were devoted to learning their language, culture, and history. But it was the evenings Zara treasured most, when they would walk through the gardens or sit in the library, sharing stories of their respective worlds. "Tell me about Earth," Zara said one evening as they sat beside the luminescent pool in her private courtyard. Marcus had brought a small device that projected holographic images, and she was captivated by scenes of vast blue oceans and green forests. "It's mostly water," Marcus explained, manipulating the display to show different continents. "Humans evolved to be adaptable because our world is so diverse. Deserts, frozen wastelands, tropical jungles, mountain ranges that reach above the clouds. We had to learn to survive anywhere." Zara traced a scaled finger through the hologram of a waterfall. "Your world sounds chaotic. Vorthak Prime is much more controlled. We terraformed most of our planet centuries ago to create optimal conditions. That's probably why your people became such effective conquerors," Marcus observed. "You learned to impose order on chaos. Humans learned to thrive in it." Their conversations often touched on such differences, but lately, Zara had noticed Marcus steering discussions toward more personal topics. He asked about her interests, her dreams before the marriage arrangement, her thoughts on various subjects that had nothing to do with politics or reproduction. It was refreshing to be seen as an individual rather than a royal obligation or medical curiosity. "Marcus," she said carefully, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you volunteer for this arrangement? Surely there were other humans who could have served as ambassadors or cultural bridges." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching the bioluminescent fish that swam in lazy circles through the pool. "I've spent most of my adult life in space, exploring new worlds and meeting different species. I've seen what happens when first contact goes wrong: fear, misunderstanding, and eventually war. When I heard about this opportunity to potentially prevent conflict between our peoples, I couldn't refuse. But you sacrificed your own freedom, your chance for a normal life among your own kind. He looked at her then, and she was struck by the intensity in his gray eyes. Who says this isn't a normal life? I'm getting to know an intelligent, kind, and fascinating woman while helping establish peace between two civilizations. From where I sit, I got the better end of this deal. Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks, causing her scales to shift from blue to deeper purple. You speak as if I'm not. Damaged goods. Zara. Marcus turned to face her fully, his expression serious. On Earth we have a saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But more than that, we've learned that medical impossibilities have a way of becoming possibilities when you change your perspective. Before she could respond, her personal servant appeared in the courtyard entrance. Your Highness, the Emperor requests your immediate presence in the war room. The human is to accompany you. They found Emperor Vorthak studying holographic displays with his military advisors. The images showed human colonial ships, dozens of them, moving through space in organized formations. Zara's father turned as they entered, his expression grim. Explain this, human, the Emperor demanded, gesturing at the displays. Our scouts report massive human fleet movements in the Outer Rim territories. This was not part of our agreement. Marcus studied the images carefully. Your Majesty, these appear to be civilian vessels, colony ships, supply freighters, medical transports. He pointed to specific formations. See how they're traveling? These aren't military formations. They're evacuation convoys. Evacuation from what? Zara asked. Marcus's expression darkened. Pirates. We've been tracking a group of rogue Zalathi raiders who've been attacking both human and Vorthak colonies in the disputed zones. These ships are carrying refugees from attacked settlements. General Korthak, the Emperor's chief military advisor, snarled. The Zalathi dare to attack Imperial territories? This is an act of war. It's more complicated than that, Marcus said carefully. The Zalathi claim they're operating in unclaimed space, and technically, some of these systems fall into gray areas of territorial law. They're using the confusion about boundaries to justify their raids. Emperor Vorthak's mandibles clicked ominously. Are you suggesting we cannot protect our own territories? I'm suggesting we have a common enemy, Marcus replied. These raiders attack human colonies, Vorthak outposts, and neutral trading stations indiscriminately. Instead of fighting each other over territory, perhaps we should consider a joint operation to eliminate the threat. Zara watched the exchange with growing amazement. Marcus was proposing military cooperation between species that had been on the brink of war just months ago. More impressive was how he presented the idea, not as a desperate human plea for help, but as a strategic opportunity that would benefit both peoples. Joint operations? General Korthak's laugh was harsh. Human vessels are barely space-worthy compared to our battle cruisers. What could your people possibly contribute? Marcus smiled, and Zara recognized the expression she'd learned meant he was about to surprise someone. General, human ships may be less advanced, but we specialize in unconventional tactics. We've learned to be creative when facing superior firepower. Plus, we have something the Zalathi don't expect: detailed intelligence on their operations and base locations. He activated his own holographic display, showing star charts with marked positions. We've been tracking them for months, but we lack the firepower to take them on directly. You have the ships and weapons to crush them, but finding them in the vast darkness of space is nearly impossible without knowing where to look. The Emperor studied the intelligence data, his four eyes moving between different tactical displays. This information appears genuine. How did humans acquire such detailed knowledge? We're good at hiding and watching, Marcus said simply. It's a survival skill our species developed early. Zara felt a surge of pride watching her husband navigate the complex political and military dynamics. He wasn't just offering military cooperation, he was positioning humans as valuable partners rather than junior allies. The subtle confidence with which he presented their capabilities reminded her of the most skilled Vorthak diplomats. I will consider this proposal, the Emperor announced. Return to your quarters while my advisors and I discuss the implications. As they walked back through the palace corridors, Zara found herself seeing Marcus in a new light. "You knew about those raiders before the meeting, didn't you? I suspected your father would bring them up eventually. Human intelligence networks are extensive. You've been planning this joint operation from the beginning." Marcus stopped walking and turned to her. "Zara, I didn't come here just to secure peace through marriage. I came to build a foundation for real partnership between our peoples. That requires proving humans can be valuable allies, not just convenient political tools." She stared at him, realizing that her supposedly primitive husband was playing a much deeper game than anyone suspected. "What else haven't you told me?" "Quite a lot, actually," he admitted with a grin. "But I think you're going to like the surprises." The joint military operation against the Zalathi raiders had been approved, and Zara found herself accompanying Marcus to the fleet staging area. As his wife, she held the honorary rank of battle coordinator, a position that allowed her to observe operations and serve as liaison between human and Vorthak forces. What she hadn't expected was how different human military culture was from what she'd grown up with. The human ships were indeed smaller and less imposing than Vorthak battlecruisers. But as Zara toured the flagship Resilience, she began to understand what Marcus meant about unconventional tactics. Where Vorthak vessels emphasized heavy armor and overwhelming firepower, human ships were designed for speed, stealth, and adaptability. Every system had backup systems, and many components could be rapidly reconfigured for different mission profiles. "Your technology is interesting," she told Captain Sarah Martinez, the human fleet commander. They stood on the bridge watching Vorthak and human crews work together to coordinate battle plans. Captain Martinez laughed. "That's diplomatic speak for primitive but clever, isn't it, Your Highness?" Zara felt her scales flush purple with embarrassment. "I meant no offense, none taken. We know we're the new kids in this galaxy, but we've learned that being underestimated can be an advantage." Martinez gestured toward a holographic display showing ship formations. "Your people build magnificent war machines designed to dominate through superior force. We build scrappy survivors designed to win through superior cunning." Marcus approached them, carrying a datapad with the latest intelligence reports. "The Zalathi base is definitely in the Korath Nebula, just as we suspected. Sensor readings confirm at least 30 ships, including several heavy cruisers they've captured from various species." 30 ships, Zara mused. "The combined fleet only has 18 vessels total." "Numbers aren't everything," Marcus replied. "The Zalathi are raiders, not military forces. They're used to attacking lightly defended targets, not fighting coordinated opposition. Plus, they don't know we're coming." Admiral Threk, the Vorthak fleet commander, materialized beside them via holographic projection from his flagship. His scarred face showed typical Vorthak skepticism about human capabilities. "Captain Chen, your plan requires precise timing and coordination between forces with different capabilities. One miscalculation could result in disaster." "That's true of any battle plan, Admiral," Marcus responded respectfully. "But this approach plays to both our strengths. Your ships draw their attention with a frontal assault, while our vessels use stealth technology to infiltrate their defensive perimeter. By the time they realize they're surrounded, it'll be too late to organize an effective response." Zara watched the exchange with fascination. Marcus showed proper deference to the Admiral's rank and experience, while quietly maintaining confidence in his tactical approach. It was a delicate balance that few beings managed successfully when dealing with Vorthak military pride. "Very well," Admiral Threk conceded. "We will implement your strategy. But if your stealth ships are detected prematurely, then we improvise," Marcus finished. "Humans are good at that too." 6 hours later, Zara found herself in the Resilience's command center as the joint fleet approached the Korath Nebula. The swirling gases and electromagnetic interference provided perfect cover for the Zalathi base, but also made navigation treacherous. She watched human and Vorthak officers work side by side, their different approaches to problem-solving creating surprisingly effective solutions. "Nebula entry in 3 minutes, reported Lieutenant Commander Okafor from the navigation station. "Human stealth ships are ready for insertion." Marcus stood at the central command console, monitoring communications from both fleets. "Admiral Threk, begin your approach. Remember, we need them focused on you for at least 10 minutes before the second phase begins." "Understood, Captain. Vorthak fleet is moving to attack position." Zara felt her pulse quicken as she watched the tactical display. The Vorthak ships emerged from the nebula's edge like ancient war gods, their massive forms bristling with weapons and energy shields. The Zalathi response was immediate. Dozens of smaller ships swarmed out to meet them just as Marcus had predicted. Phase 1 is working, Captain Martinez observed. All Zalathi forces are engaging the Admiral's fleet. Stealth ships begin insertion, Marcus ordered. Remember, your targets are their command ship and supply depot. Disable, don't destroy. We need their intelligence networks intact. Zara watched in amazement as nearly invisible human ships slipped through the chaos of battle. Their stealth technology wasn't perfect, but combined with the confusion of combat and the nebula's interference, it was enough. She could barely track them on sensors, and she knew where to look. Human forces in position, came the whispered report from the lead stealth ship, awaiting final authorization. Marcus looked at the tactical display one more time, calculating angles and timing with the precision of a master strategist. All human ships execute Phase 2. Admiral Threk, begin your withdrawal in 60 seconds. What happened next would be remembered in military academies for generations. The Zalathi, thinking they had the Vorthak fleet on the run, pressed their attack aggressively. At the precise moment they were most exposed, human ships materialized throughout their formation like ghosts becoming solid. Surprise was complete. The battle was over in minutes. Caught between two forces and unable to coordinate their response, the Zalathi raiders found themselves systematically disabled by precise strikes on their engines and weapons. A few ships attempted to flee, but human vessels had positioned themselves perfectly to intercept escape routes. Zalathi command ship is requesting terms of surrender, reported the communications officer. Admiral. Threk's image appeared on the command screen, his expression showing grudging respect. Captain Chen, your tactics were effective. The Zalathi fleet is neutralized with minimal casualties on both sides. Thank you, Admiral. Human boarding parties are securing their command ship and data networks now. We should have their complete intelligence files within the hour. As the immediate crisis passed, Zara found herself studying her husband with new eyes. The gentle, curious man she'd been getting to know was also clearly a brilliant military strategist. He had orchestrated a complex operation involving two different species technologies and tactical doctrines, achieving victory through careful planning rather than brute force. Impressive work. Husband? She said quietly when the immediate post-battle activities allowed them a moment of relative privacy. Marcus looked tired, but satisfied. Teamwork makes everything possible. Your people provided the strength. My people provided the stealth, and together we accomplished something neither could have done alone. Is that what you see for our peoples? Partnership instead of dominance? I think it's what the galaxy needs, Marcus replied. There are threats out there that no single species can handle alone. The more we cooperate, the stronger we all become. Captain Martinez approached them with a datapad. Sir, preliminary intelligence from the Zalathi computers shows something interesting. They've been raiding settlements to gather resources for someone else. This wasn't just random piracy. Marcus frowned as he reviewed the data. Who's backing them? That's the problem, sir. The trail leads deeper into uncharted space, toward regions none of our species have explored yet. Whatever's out there, it's big enough to coordinate raids across multiple star systems. Zara felt a chill run through her. You're saying this was just the beginning? I'm saying, Marcus replied grimly, that our two species are going to need each other more than we thought. 2 weeks after the successful joint operation, Zara received news that changed everything. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the human medical specialist who had arrived with a small research team, requested a private meeting. Zara had been curious about the doctor's presence but assumed it was related to treating any potential battle injuries. She was wrong. Your Highness, Dr. Vasquez began as they sat in Zara's private study. I've been reviewing your medical files with your permission, and I believe there may have been some misunderstandings about your condition. Zara's heart sank. She had hoped the humans might indeed have advanced medical knowledge, but she'd undergone examinations by the finest Vorthak physicians for years. Doctor, I appreciate your efforts, but I've been told repeatedly that my reproductive organs are malformed beyond repair. Dr. Vasquez opened her medical scanner and displayed a series of holographic images. The Vorthak physicians weren't wrong about the physical abnormalities, but I think they may have misunderstood their significance. Tell me, in Vorthak medical science, how is genetic compatibility determined? Through biological matching, Zara replied, confused by the seemingly basic question. Compatible partners share similar genetic markers that allow for successful reproduction. Exactly. Your doctors have been testing you for compatibility with other Vorthak, but humans have a very different approach to reproduction. Dr. Vasquez manipulated the display to show genetic sequences. Our species evolved to be genetically adaptable. We can successfully reproduce with partners who are quite different from us, genetically speaking. Zara stared at the incomprehensible data streams. What are you saying? I'm saying that what makes you incompatible with Vorthak males might actually make you more compatible with human genetics. Your unique physiology could be exactly what's needed for successful cross-species reproduction. The room seemed to spin around Zara. That's impossible. Vorthak and humans are completely different species. So were humans and Neanderthals, but they managed just fine, Dr. Vasquez said with a smile. Evolution is remarkably creative when it comes to finding ways for life to continue. But I want to be clear, this is still theoretical. I'd need to run extensive tests with both you and Captain Chen to determine if successful reproduction is actually possible. Zara's mind raced. Could it be true? Could the very condition that made her worthless in Vorthak society actually be the key to something unprecedented? Does Marcus know about this? I briefed him on the possibility yesterday. He wanted me to speak with you first before discussing any procedures. That evening, Zara found Marcus in the palace gardens where they often walked together. The conversation felt different now, charged with possibilities she'd never dared imagine. They walked in comfortable silence for several minutes. Before she finally spoke, Dr. Vasquez shared her theory with me. I thought she might. Marcus stopped beside the luminescent pool and turned to face her. Zara, I want you to know that this doesn't change anything between us. Whether her theory proves correct or not, I value our partnership for what it is. But if she's right... Zara couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too enormous. If she's right, then we might be able to give both our peoples something amazing. But more than that, we might be able to build the family that every individual deserves the chance to have. Zara felt tears gathering in her eyes, a human emotional response she'd learned from watching Earth entertainment programs. Marcus, what if this fails? What if I get my hopes up only to face disappointment again? Marcus reached out and gently took her hands in his. Then we'll face that disappointment together and we'll still have each other. But Zara, what if it succeeds? What if we're about to prove that the galaxy is much more connected than anyone imagined? The next month brought a flurry of medical consultations, genetic testing, and careful preparation. Dr. Vasquez worked closely with Vorthak medical specialists, sharing human reproductive technology while learning about Vorthak physiology. The collaboration itself was groundbreaking. The first formal medical research partnership between their species. Emperor Vorthak initially expressed skepticism about the entire endeavor, but as preliminary test results showed promising genetic compatibility markers, his attitude shifted. The possibility that his daughter might not only bear children but potentially create an entirely new form of diplomatic alliance between species was too strategically valuable to ignore. The genetic matching is remarkable, Dr. Vasquez reported during a formal presentation to the imperial court. Princess Zara's unique physiology appears to be naturally suited for cross-species reproduction. The same genetic variations that prevented compatibility with Vorthak males actually enhance her compatibility with human genetics. General Korthak, still skeptical of human motives, raised a concern that had been troubling many Vorthak nobles. Doctor, what guarantee do we have that any offspring would retain Vorthak characteristics? How do we know human genetics won't simply overwhelm our bloodline? Dr. Vasquez smiled. General, that's actually one of the most exciting aspects of this situation. Based on our models, any children would likely inherit strengths from both species, enhanced physical capabilities from the Vorthak side, combined with human adaptability and cognitive flexibility. They wouldn't be fully either species. They'd be something new and potentially superior to both. Marcus stepped forward to address the court. Your Majesty, if this succeeds, we're not just talking about Princess Zara having children. We're talking about creating living bridges between our civilizations, children who could understand both cultures from birth, who could serve as natural diplomats and cultural translators. The Emperor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Captain Chen, You speak of these hypothetical children as if they would belong to both our peoples equally. That's exactly what I'm suggesting, Your Majesty. Joint custody, if you will, but on a species level. They would be raised understanding both human and Vorthak traditions, educated in both technologies and philosophies. They could become the foundation for a true partnership between our civilizations. Zara watched the political maneuvering with fascination. Marcus was once again thinking several moves ahead, turning a personal medical situation into a broader strategic opportunity. But she also noticed something else. He spoke about these potential children with genuine excitement, not just as political tools but as individuals he already cared about. The medical procedures themselves are relatively straightforward, Dr. Vasquez continued. Human reproductive technology combined with Vorthak genetic enhancement techniques should allow for successful conception and healthy development. We estimate a 73% chance of success on the first attempt. Those were better odds than Zara had ever dreamed possible. For years, she'd lived with 0% chance of bearing children. Now she was being told she had better than even odds of not just becoming pregnant, but potentially giving birth to children who could change the course of galactic history. Father, she said, addressing the Emperor directly, I request permission to proceed with these procedures. Emperor Vorthak studied his daughter for a long moment. Zara, you understand that if this succeeds, your children will be watched and studied by every major civilization in the galaxy? They will never have completely normal lives. Father, I've never had a normal life either, but if my children can help build a better future for both our peoples, then that's a burden I'm willing to accept. The Emperor nodded slowly. Very well. Proceed with Dr. Vasquez's recommendations. But Captain Chen, understand that if this fails, if any harm comes to my daughter through these procedures, our alliance will be reconsidered. Marcus bowed formally. Understood, Your Majesty. I give you my word that Zara's well-being is my primary concern. As the court session ended and the various officials dispersed to begin preparing for the medical procedures, Zara found herself alone with Marcus in the empty throne room. The weight of what they were about to attempt settled on her shoulders. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked softly. I don't know if anyone could be ready for this, Zara replied honestly, but I want to try. For us, for our peoples, and for the children we might have. Marcus smiled and took her hand. Then let's make history. 6 months later, Zara stood before the same window where she had first learned about her arranged marriage. But everything had changed. Her scaled hand rested protectively over the gentle curve of her abdomen, where new life grew within her. The pregnancy had been confirmed 3 months ago, sending shockwaves throughout both human and Vorthak societies. The news had spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The impossible had happened. Not only was the supposedly barren Vorthak princess pregnant, but she was carrying hybrid children that represented the first successful cross-species reproduction between advanced civilizations. Scientists, politicians, and religious leaders from dozens of species requested permission to study the pregnancy, offer advice, or simply witness this historic event. The latest medical scans look perfect, Dr. Vasquez announced as she entered Zara's private quarters with Marcus following behind. Both children are developing normally, showing characteristics from both species as predicted. Both children? Zara smiled at the reminder. Twins were extraordinarily rare among Vorthak, considered a divine blessing. That she was carrying two hybrid, children seemed to confirm that this pregnancy was meant to be something special. Marcus sat beside her on the comfortable resting couch they'd had specially designed to accommodate her changing body. How are you feeling today? Different, Zara replied honestly. My body is changing in ways I never expected. Sometimes I can feel them moving and it's like they're already trying to communicate with each other. Dr. Vasquez checked her medical scanner readings. That's actually not surprising. Both human and Vorthak children show advanced neural development in the womb. Your children are likely even more neurologically active than typical for either species. What does that mean for their future development? Marcus asked. It means they'll probably be remarkably intelligent even by the standards of both our species. But it also means they'll need very specialized education and care. These children won't just be bridges between cultures. They'll likely be capable of insights that neither pure humans nor pure Vorthak could achieve. The implications were staggering. Zara found herself wondering what kind of world her children would inherit. Would they be celebrated as symbols of unity, or would they face prejudice from those who saw them as abominations? Would they be able to live normal lives, or would they always be political symbols? A gentle chime announced an incoming communication. Marcus activated the holographic display, revealing Emperor Vorthak's imposing figure. Zara's father had been surprisingly supportive throughout the pregnancy, though she suspected political calculations motivated much of his enthusiasm. Daughter. Husband. The Emperor began formally, then his expression softened slightly. How are my grandchildren today? They're active, Father. Dr. Vasquez says their development is ahead of schedule. Excellent. I have news that concerns their future. The Galactic Council has requested a formal presentation about the pregnancy and its implications for interspecies relations. They're offering to host the event on the neutral station at Harmony Point. Marcus frowned. Your Majesty, with respect, I'm not sure Zara should be traveling this late in her pregnancy, especially to a space station. The children aren't due for another 2 months, the Emperor replied. Dr. Vasquez, what is your medical opinion? Dr. Vasquez considered carefully. The pregnancy is remarkably stable, and Harmony Point has excellent medical facilities. If we take proper precautions, travel should be safe. But I'd want to bring a full medical team and ensure immediate access to emergency birthing facilities. Zara felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety about the proposal. Harmony Point was the galaxy's premier diplomatic station, designed to accommodate dozens of different species' environmental needs. Addressing the Galactic Council would give her the opportunity to shape how her children would be perceived by the broader galactic community. I want to do it, she decided. These children represent something new in galactic history. The Council should hear directly from us about what we hope this means for the future. Marcus took her hand. If you're sure, then we'll make it work. But I want security guarantees and medical contingencies for every possible scenario. Agreed, the Emperor said. General Korthak will coordinate with human security forces to ensure your safety. This presentation could determine how our alliance is perceived by other major civilizations. 2 weeks later, Zara found herself aboard a specially modified transport ship traveling toward Harmony Point. The vessel had been equipped with both human and Vorthak medical facilities, and Dr. Vasquez had brought an international team of specialists in exotic pregnancy complications. The journey gave her time to prepare her presentation with Marcus. They had decided to speak together, demonstrating the partnership they hoped their children would represent. Their message was carefully crafted to emphasize opportunity rather than threat, cooperation rather than dominance. Remember, Marcus said as they reviewed their notes, half the council members will see our children as potential advantages for their own species' future. The other half will see them as threats to existing power structures. We need to address both perspectives. I understand the politics, Zara replied, but I also want them to understand that these are our children, not just political symbols. They deserve the chance to live their own lives and make their own choices about their futures. That's exactly the message we need to send. These children represent possibility, not predetermined destiny. Harmony Point was magnificent, a massive rotating station that created artificial gravity while accommodating atmospheric needs of dozens of species. The council chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, with environmental controls that could adjust temperature, pressure, and atmospheric composition for different sections of the audience. As Zara and Marcus were announced to the assembly, she felt the weight of hundreds of eyes studying her obviously pregnant form. Representatives from major civilizations filled the amphitheater-style chamber, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity. Chancellor Vrex of the Galactic Council, a tall ethereal being from the Crystalline Consortium, called the session to order. We gather today to hear from Princess Zara of the Vorthak Empire and Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Federation about the unprecedented pregnancy that has captured galactic attention. Your Highness Captain, the floor is yours. Zara stood carefully, her hand resting on her swollen abdomen. Honored representative, 6 months ago I was considered a failed princess, unable to contribute to my people's future. Today I carry children who represent something entirely new. Proof that the barriers between our species are not as absolute as we believed. Marcus joined her at the speaking platform. These children aren't just genetic curiosities. They represent the potential for deeper cooperation between species that have traditionally seen each other as rivals or threats. They prove that diversity can create strength rather than conflict. Ambassador Kelth of the Andromedan Commonwealth, a species known for their skepticism about interspecies cooperation, raised a concern. Princess Captain, while your pregnancy is certainly remarkable, what guarantee do we have that these hybrid children won't become tools for one species to dominate others? History shows us that genetic advantages are often used for conquest. Zara had anticipated this question. Ambassador Kelth, that's exactly why we're here today. We want the galactic community to understand that these children will be raised to serve all civilizations, not just human or Vorthak interests. They will be educated in multiple cultures, trained in diplomatic protocols from various species, and encouraged to see themselves as citizens of the galaxy rather than representatives of any single faction. Furthermore, Marcus added, we're proposing the establishment of an interspecies cooperation institute, where children like ours, and any other successful cross-species offspring, can be educated alongside representatives from all major civilizations. The goal is to create a generation of natural diplomats who understand multiple perspectives. The proposal generated immediate discussion among the council members. Some species were intrigued by the possibilities, while others expressed concerns about genetic contamination or loss of species purity. Dr. Vasquez, who had been invited to provide medical testimony, stood to address the assembly. Honored representatives from a scientific perspective, these children represent an evolutionary leap forward. They combine beneficial traits from both parent species while eliminating many genetic weaknesses. Rather than being threats to existing species, they could help all of us become stronger and more adaptable. As the session continued, Zara felt her children moving actively within her, as if they could sense the importance of this moment. She placed both hands on her abdomen and closed her eyes for a moment, drawing strength from the lives growing inside her. When she opened her eyes, she spoke from her heart rather than from prepared remarks. Representatives, I stand before you as a mother who wants the best possible future for her children. These babies didn't choose to be symbols or bridges or political tools. They're just children who deserve the chance to grow up in a galaxy that celebrates diversity rather than fearing. The emergency alarm pierced through the diplomatic quarters at Harmony Point at 0347 station time. Zara woke from restless sleep to find Dr. Vasquez rushing into their chambers, medical scanner in hand and concern etched across her face. Your Highness, we need to get you to medical immediately. The children's neural activity has spiked beyond anything we've recorded, and your vital signs are fluctuating. Marcus was already pulling on his clothes. What does that mean? Are they in danger? I don't know, Dr. Vasquez admitted as she helped Zara sit up. This is completely outside our experience with either human or Vorthak pregnancies. Their brain activity levels are off the charts and they seem to be communicating with each other in ways we don't understand. As if responding to the conversation, Zara felt an unusual sensation in her abdomen. Not pain exactly, but a strange tingling that seemed to pulse in complex patterns. Doctor, I think they can hear us. When you mentioned their communication, they started moving differently. That should be impossible, Dr. Vasquez muttered as she guided them toward the medical bay. Neither species develops that level of neurological sophistication until well after birth. The medical bay at Harmony Point was state-of-the-art, equipped to handle the physiological needs of dozens of different species. But as Dr. Vasquez connected Zara to the monitoring equipment, it became clear that they were dealing with something entirely unprecedented. Look at these neural patterns, Dr. Vasquez said to the assembled medical team. The children aren't just neurologically active. They're processing information at levels that would be remarkable for adult humans or Vorthak. And these synchronized waves suggest they're sharing thoughts or experiences. Marcus studied the readouts with growing amazement. Are you saying they're telepathically linked? I'm saying they're doing something that our current understanding of biology says shouldn't be possible. But the data is clear. They're communicating with each other through some form of direct neural connection. Zara closed her eyes and concentrated on the sensations within her body. The tingling had evolved into something more complex. Patterns that almost felt like language, though not in any form she recognized. They're trying to tell us something. Your Highness, one of the Vorthak medical specialists said hesitantly, there are legends in our oldest texts about children born with connected minds. They were said to be harbingers of great change, capable of bridging gaps between different forms of consciousness. Legends or not, Dr. Vasquez replied. We need to focus on keeping mother and children healthy. These neural spikes are putting enormous strain on Princess Zara's system. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The lights dimmed to emergency levels, and automated announcements echoed through the corridors in multiple languages. All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown vessels approaching station perimeter. Marcus activated his communication device connecting to station security. This is Captain Chen, what's the situation? Commander Thax's voice crackled through the speaker. Captain, we have multiple unidentified ships dropping out of hyperspace around the station. They're not responding to communications, and their energy signatures don't match any known civilization. Through the medical bay's observation window, Zara could see the vast bulk of Harmony Point rotating against the starfield. But now dark shapes were visible moving against the distant stars. Ships of unfamiliar design approaching the station, with obvious hostile intent. The Zalathi intelligence files, Marcus said suddenly. Remember what we found about their mysterious backers? This could be who's been directing the raids. Dr. Vasquez was trying to stabilize Zara's condition as the station's defensive systems came online. Captain, I need to focus on the medical emergency here. Whatever's happening outside. Doctor, Zara interrupted, her voice strained but determined. The children's neural activity spiked right before those ships appeared. I don't think that's a coincidence. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that our children somehow sensed the approaching threat. Their enhanced neural development might include capabilities we haven't discovered yet. Marcus moved to the observation window, watching the unknown ships take positions around Harmony Point. If that's true, if they can sense things at interstellar distances, then they're more remarkable than we imagined. But right now we need to focus on keeping them safe. The first energy blast struck Harmony Point's shields with devastating force, causing the entire station to shudder. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the medical bay as the gravity generator struggled to maintain stability. Station shields are holding, but those weapons are more powerful than anything in our databases, came the report from Station Command. We're requesting immediate assistance from all diplomatic vessels in the area. Emperor Vorthak's voice suddenly filled the medical bay through the communication system. Daughter, are you safe? Our battle fleet is en route, but it will take time to reach your position. Father, I'm in the medical bay. The children, they're responding to what's happening. Dr. Vasquez thinks they might have sensed the attack before it began. Impossible, came Admiral Threk's voice. No being can sense threats across interstellar space. Admiral, Marcus interjected. With respect, we're dealing with children who shouldn't be able to exist at all. Maybe it's time to expand our definition of impossible. Another series of impacts shook the station, this time accompanied by the sound of hull breaches somewhere in the outer sections. The unknown attackers were systematically targeting Harmony Point's defensive capabilities with precision that suggested detailed knowledge of the station's design. Doctor? Zara gasped as another wave of unusual sensations swept through her. Something's changing. The neural patterns are different now. Dr. Vasquez studied her scanner readings with growing alarm. The children's brain activity is shifting to completely new configurations. It's almost like they're trying to reach beyond your body somehow. Beyond my body to what? Before Dr. Vasquez could answer, something unprecedented happened. Throughout Harmony Point, every communications device, every computer terminal, every piece of electronic equipment suddenly displayed the same image. Complex mathematical equations and star charts that no one on the station had input. What's happening? Marcus demanded as he watched the displays. The children, Zara whispered, understanding flooding through her. They're communicating with the station's system somehow. They're trying to show us something. The star charts displayed on every screen suddenly highlighted specific coordinates, locations throughout the galaxy where similar attacks had occurred. The mathematical equations resolved into tactical predictions, showing how the unknown forces could be defeated. Impossible. Admiral Threk's voice came through the communications, now filled with wonder rather than skepticism. The tactical solutions these equations provide, they're brilliant, but no unborn children could understand military strategy. Admiral, Marcus said as he studied the data filling the screens around them, I don't think we're dealing with normal children. I think we're dealing with something entirely new, minds that can process information and perceive reality in ways neither of our species ever imagined. Another barrage struck Harmony Point, but this time the station's defensive systems responded differently. Following the tactical guidelines appearing on every screen, the station's weapons targeted specific weak points on the attacking ships with devastating accuracy. Direct hits on 3 enemy vessels, came the report from Station Command. However they're providing this tactical data, it's incredibly effective. Zara felt the children's movements become more calm and organized within her. The chaotic neural activity had resolved into something that felt almost like purposeful communication. They're not just sensing what's happening, she realized. They're actively trying to protect us, to protect everyone on this station. Dr. Vasquez stared at her medical readings in amazement. Princess, the strain on your system is actually decreasing. It's like they've learned to control their abilities, to use them without harming you. Then these children aren't just bridges between our species, Marcus said with growing awe. They might be bridges to entirely new forms of consciousness, new ways of understanding and interacting with the universe. As the battle continued around Harmony Point, with the unknown attackers gradually being driven back by tactics no military strategist had ever conceived, Zara placed her hands on her abdomen and spoke softly to the lives growing within her. I don't know what you are or what you'll become, she whispered, but I promise you'll be loved and protected, no matter how different you might be. The response came not as movement, but as a warm feeling of contentment that filled her entire being. Her children had heard her, and somehow she knew they understood. 3 weeks after the attack on Harmony Point, Zara gave birth to her children in the most secure medical facility in the galaxy. The delivery itself was remarkably smooth, as if the twins had orchestrated their own birth with the same precision they had shown during the battle. When Dr. Vasquez placed the first child in Zara's arms, she felt a connection that transcended anything she had imagined possible. The daughter was beautiful, combining the elegant scaling of Vorthak heritage with the softer features of human genetics. But it was her eyes that took Zara's breath away. They held an intelligence and awareness that seemed far beyond what any newborn should possess. When the second child, a son, was placed beside his sister, the two immediately turned toward each other with obvious recognition. They know each other, Marcus said softly, wonder filling his voice as he looked at his children for the first time. Look how they're reaching for each other. Dr. Vasquez monitored both infants carefully. Their neural activity is still remarkable, but it's stabilized into patterns we're beginning to understand. They seem to share a constant low-level telepathic connection, but they're not overwhelming each other or their environment. Emperor Vorthak arrived within hours of the birth. His imposing figure softened by genuine emotion as he looked at his grandchildren. They are perfect, he announced, his voice carrying a pride that echoed through the medical facility. Daughter, you have given our people something beyond price. They're not just ours, father, Zara reminded him gently. They belong to both our species, and perhaps to the galaxy itself. The children's names had been chosen months ago through careful negotiation between human and Vorthak traditions. The daughter was called Lyra, meaning harmony in an ancient human language, while the son was named Korth, honoring the Vorthak tradition of strong consonants that would command respect. But as the days passed, it became clear that their names were less important than what they represented. News of the birth spread rapidly throughout known space. The children who had helped save Harmony Point were now real, tangible proof that the barriers between species could be overcome. Requests for audiences, medical examinations, and diplomatic meetings flooded in from dozens of civilizations. We need to be careful, Marcus warned as he and Zara discussed the constant stream of requests. These children deserve to have normal childhoods, not to be treated as curiosities or political tools. Is any childhood possible for them going to be normal? Zara asked, watching Lyra and Korth sleep in their specially designed cribs. Even in sleep, the twins maintained some form of connection, their tiny hands reaching toward each other. Dr. Vasquez entered with her latest test results. I have good news and complicated news. The good news is that both children are developing perfectly, showing enhanced capabilities from both parent species. The complicated news is that their telepathic abilities are continuing to evolve. What does that mean? Marcus asked. It means they're not just communicating with each other anymore. Yesterday, Lyra somehow activated a toy that was across the room without touching it, and Korth seemed to understand what the Vorthak medical staff were saying. before the translator system processed their words. Zara felt a mixture of pride and concern. They're becoming more powerful. They're becoming more capable, Dr. Vasquez corrected. But they're also learning to control these abilities. Watch this. She moved to Lyra's crib and spoke softly. Hello, little one. Can you show us how you feel today? The infant's eyes focused on Dr. Vasquez with remarkable clarity. A moment later, every light in the room dimmed to a warm, comfortable level, and the temperature adjusted to exactly what Zara found most pleasant. She's manipulating the environmental controls, Marcus said in amazement. But how does she know what we find comfortable? Because she can sense our emotional and physical states, Dr. Vasquez explained. Both children seem to have empathic abilities that extend beyond normal telepathy. They're not just reading thoughts, they're understanding needs and responding to them. A communication alert chimed and Admiral Threck's image appeared on the holographic display. Your Highness, Captain Chen, we have a situation that requires the children's unique perspective. Admiral. They're only 3 weeks old, Marcus protested. I understand, Captain, but we've intercepted communications from the unknown forces that attacked Harmony Point. They're regrouping, and their technology is adapting to the tactical strategies the children provided. We need to understand what we're facing. Zara looked at her sleeping children, then at Marcus. If there's another attack, how many people could die? How many families could be destroyed? Zara, we can't ask newborn infants to solve military problems. We're not asking them, she replied firmly. We're giving them the opportunity to protect the people they'll share this galaxy with. Dr. Vasquez set up a secure communication link that would allow the children to interact with the intercepted alien communications without exposure to potentially harmful signals. As the strange transmissions played through the medical bay's speakers, both Lyra and Korth became alert and focused. The twins' response was immediate and coordinated. Lyra's tiny hand moved in complex patterns that somehow activated multiple displays throughout the room, while Korth made soft vocalizations that translated into mathematical formulas on the screens. Together, they revealed something that stunned everyone present. The attacking forces aren't from outside our galaxy, Marcus realized as he studied the data the children had provided. They're from the Galactic core, from regions we've never explored because the radiation levels are too dangerous for most known life forms. More than that, Admiral Threck's voice carried new concern. According to this analysis, they're not invaders. They're refugees. Something in the Galactic core is forcing them to expand outward, and they see our occupied territories as obstacles to their survival. Emperor Vorthak's image joined the communication. Are you suggesting these attacks are motivated by desperation rather than conquest? Lyra and Korth exchanged what could only be described as meaningful looks despite their age. New information appeared on the displays. Images of massive stellar phenomena in the galactic core, regions where stars were dying or being consumed by unknown forces. They're showing us the cause, Zara said softly. Something is destroying their home regions, forcing them to seek new territories. They're not evil. They're just trying to survive. But that doesn't change the fact that they're attacking our civilians, Admiral Threck pointed out. The twins' response came immediately. New tactical displays showing potential solutions that didn't involve military conflict. Uninhabited star systems that could support refugee populations, resource-sharing agreements that could benefit both sides, and technological exchanges that could help the refugees find solutions to whatever was destroying their original territories. They're proposing diplomatic solutions, Marcus said with growing amazement. Children who are barely 3 weeks old are suggesting complex intergalactic refugee assistance programs. Not just suggesting, Dr. Vasquez observed as she monitored the continuing data stream from the twins. They're providing detailed implementation plans, resource allocation schedules, and even cultural integration protocols. This level of strategic thinking is beyond what adult experts typically achieve. Emperor Vorthak was quiet for several moments, studying the comprehensive proposals his grandchildren had generated. These solutions could work, he finally admitted, but they would require unprecedented cooperation between multiple species and significant resource commitments. Father, Zara said, what if that's exactly what the galaxy needs? What if this crisis is an opportunity to prove that cooperation is more powerful than conflict? And what if these children are exactly what we need to make that cooperation possible? Marcus added. As if responding to their parents' words, Lyra and Korth simultaneously smiled, the first clear emotional expressions they had shown since birth. In that moment, Zara understood that her children were not just bridges between human and Vorthak civilizations. They were harbingers of something much larger, a new form of consciousness that could help all the galaxy's inhabitants learn to work together. Admiral, Emperor, she said formally, I believe it's time to convene the largest diplomatic assembly in galactic history, and I believe my children should be there to help us find our way forward. Marcus took her hand, and together they looked at their remarkable offspring. Are you ready to help change the galaxy? He asked them softly. The twins' response came not in words, but in a warm feeling of determination and love that filled the entire room. They were ready, and perhaps the galaxy finally was too. Emperor Vorthak's expression showed wonder, rather than the rage anyone might have expected when he first learned his supposedly barren daughter had been given to a human. These children, his grandchildren, represented not just the continuation of bloodlines, but the beginning of entirely new possibilities for all sentient life. The alien princess, they said, couldn't bear children had indeed given birth. And the Empire's king was not outraged. He was amazed.